Yo, what's happening, world? Name's Raheem Flowers, and if you've been watching my content since 2016, you should be familiar with this picture. But the reason why I even bring up this picture in general is just because it's a symbolism of being melanated, and as you can see, this is a Amazoness type of figure that you see within this portrait of this woman right here. But I even bring up the fact of a melanated woman as a frame of reference to my own mother. And I think about things that she's done for me, and I'm highly appreciative of. But here is an issue that me and my mother have always clashed with. My mother is a very deceptive person. Just like, unfortunately, in this world, a lot of women and a lot of people, including men, tend to be themselves. Now, I think to myself about my lineage, about my roots, and even when I was talking to my British homie, Daniel, shout out to Hayes, if you ever seen him on YouTube, I think about what my crewmate said about just the histories of the Moors and, you know, mulattoes and mixed lineage. And I've always compared myself to Malcolm X's children, because even Malcolm himself was considered a mulatto, even though he had more black in him. I think to myself, my own half-brother, I have a half-brother, right? My half-brother Ron. His father is not that of a black man. His father is more of a Spanish, Latin, and even Arabian mixture. And my brother would always say, "Oh, I'm not black." And, you know, I used to get offended by that as a kid. But retrospectively, as a 26-year-old adult, it makes sense what he said. He wasn't wrong. He wasn't saying it for the right reasons, because people want to denounce being black because, you know, black people are not respected in the world, because black people have no, like, we collectively and ultimately don't use our power. It ain't that we don't have no power, we don't use our power. And a lot of our power has been drained from us from outside forces. So that's what I'll say. In addition to that, I think to myself about how secretive my mother was, how much traumatic experiences that she put my brothers through, how much division that she even created. And even though my dad had a tyrannical mindset that he won't be honest about himself, my mother did a lot of things that made situations more troublesome, and even got to the point where my own brother, who has not spoken to me in over a decade, since I was 12 years old, since 2004, she enabled that type of mindset consistently. She did not check my brother on that. And as a mother, she did not say to her son, my half-brother, "Hey, you're not gonna just not talk to your brothers, and you're not gonna talk to your sister, you're not gonna just ignore your siblings while we lived in the same house. This is a circumstance that I'm in, and I'm giving you a paradigm and a behavioral pattern of people that I've dealt with of mixed lineage, like people who are considered mulattoes, mixed breeds, etc." See, me, lucky for me that I could still be considered as a black man, because that's the dominant gene. Like, it wouldn't even be 25%. That would be more of my mother, as a matter of fact. And since we're on the subject, I had a real long, dragged out, extended debate with my YouTube homie, who is also a mixed breed, where we were talking about what is the determinant factor of someone who's black. And my whole point was, if a person is more pretty much more or less, if you have a parent that is, let's say the dominant genes is black on both sides, even if one of the parents have mixed lineage, like my mother, and then they pass it down to you, etc., or the next person, then you are still a black person. Because then I know the whole argument. Nobody, or it's very obscure population of quote unquote pure pure melanated blood. I understand that as well, before anybody tries to get on my case with that. But for what it is, I look at things from a numeric, I look at it as a percentage standpoint. That's how I look at it. But he was saying if anybody has mixed lineage, then they're mixed. But I think to myself, if we go by this logic, then nobody's black. And that only concedes to the point about race being this social construct that was made by the elite, you know, to divide and control people. You know? And, you know, also, I was watching a video with a live stream when I was listening to college, and I went back to one of my favorite films as a kid with Martin Lawrence, where he was considered a Moor. Jamal Walker, excuse me. Jamal Walker was his name in Black Knight. Movie came out in 2001. And the funny thing about them calling him a Moor is the fact that he was in Europe, which a lot of Moors resided. Europe and Northern Africa, etc., all across the globe. And a lot of things that people don't know about Martin Lawrence. Martin Lawrence was born in Frankfurt, Germany. So for him to be called Moor throughout the film, in that timeline, in that geographic region, already tells you something. The Jews know what it is. And honestly, Martin Lawrence also played Big Mama, and he played those Sambo-ish, coonish mammy roles. I mean, Martin Lawrence is a good comedian, but we gotta be objective too, though. But yeah, that's how I look at it, man. I mean, confusion isn't only exclusive to those who are considered mixed breeds and whatnot, but you've noticed that this behavioral pattern is more prone, you know? So, I'm not saying this out of anger, I'm not saying this out of spite, I'm saying this out of questioning and even concern for my own mother and people who are of that lineage. Like even my crewmate, shout out to Hayes, man. Like I said, man, I'm not saying nothing from a malignant place, but you have to be critical, you have to question these things, and you have to notice the dynamic of how people move. Even when I was watching that, I watched some of those Breakfast Coons, especially Charlemagne's ass, and they were interviewing Leo Conan, and you know, he got called out, been called out by Dame, got called out implicitly by Mos Def, been called out by Professor Griff, you know. And you have to notice a certain pattern, a behavioral pattern that a group of people have. Does that mean that a person is automatically have to be like this? Is it on some inherent good and evil shit? No, but you have to be able to deal with and accept the fact that certain cultures do make you being prone to acting a certain way. Now there are people who stray away from that culture, which would ultimately stray away from that mentality, and then there are people who still, you know, they still are part of that culture, but they want to make some sort of reformation. So I understand that as well, you know. I'm gonna make a series out of a video like this, man. Just like I'm making a series out of video where I was talking about fucking diaspora with Pusha T and Drake starting that, but I'm gonna continue on with it. So that's all I gotta share for you guys for the time being. Peace out.